Maestro,
Hello.
we love the symphony. We've had years in which the symphony has had struggles, and here we are again in that struggling. What are some of your thoughts as to how we can dig our way out of this morass that we seem to perennially find ourselves in?
Let me say something first. I don't think that the symphony is in trouble. The symphony is actually not in trouble at all. The symphony is the symphony musicians, and the artistic product is thriving, probably performing, and I don't want to say that in a self-flattery way because that's something we do, together. And I want to, this is something we have been working on the last decade, and then I think the symphony is on an artistic level at a height that it hasn't been before, and I think everybody will agree to that we reached that level, and so the symphony is not in trouble. The way how to manage and finance and finding a right governance structure of the symphony, that has always been a problematic approach, and always a problem for maintaining the symphony operation. Which is the business side of the symphony. But artistically, the symphony is in better shape than ever. I think everybody can underwrite that, and I hope that everybody's recognizing that. Now, I think the turning point for us is, where are we in terms of community engagement? And then what I say is, where are we in terms of taking ownership of something like the symphony, which is an icon to the city of San Antonio. It's a symbol of the city of San Antonio, and we have been in the past diverting the problem always to someone else. In my own fundraising efforts, I always, you go to someone and he's going to tell you who you should ask. And that goes between, it could be, from public to corporations to private people. They always point at somebody else. And in a lot of ways that happened in the past. Nobody really wants to take the responsibility. But I think this is now changing, and with very strong leadership from the city. And I want to thank Ron Nirenberg and also Roberto Trevino, our council member for the district, and Nelson Wolf and the whole county commissioner for that support, which is a game changer, because it's a public statement of support, which is important because people see a symphony. I mean, I'm overlooking here the country club and the golf course as an entertainment for the elite. I wouldn't compare it to a golf course, because we actually, it's a beautiful golf course, but we are not exclusive. We are open to the community. We are actually an asset of the community that does so much more. I'm not, if it's education, if it's community outreach, if it's representation of the city of San Antonio in the world, all of that we are doing. And the elite entertainment is actually not even our mission. We want to be accessible. That's why the ticket price for San Antonio Symphony concert is fairly low. And there is always somebody, donors like you, who subsidize the ticketing so it stays affordable for all of us, and it's accessible for the whole community. And that's what our mission stays and is. And I think the awareness is now created that actually a symphony is owned not by a board, not by the musicians, and definitely not by a music director, but by the whole community.
Well, the Tobin, whose genesis started rightfully and was rightfully pushed by the county judge Nelson Wolf
and Philip Hartberger,
and others. Yeah. They've done yeoman's job, Bruce Berg as well, in raising the money to endow it, etc. But it certainly never was envisioned that it was just a building that had been built there for the symphony. It was a building that needed a gem on the stage, and then it was a completed thing. I see the endowment for the Tobin Center per se as wonderful for the Tobin Center and the building, the structure, the bricks and mortar. But inside are humans.
Yeah.
Inside is an audience that needs something on its stage that's going to always be there reliably. And that needs to be endowed to the same extent or more than the building.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think we all know this, and sometimes, I think it is just a lip service that we say, we have to invest into education, we have to invest, into people. And I think this is not a lip service for anymore. Our community leaders are really behind this idea of, investing into bricks is very important, but investing into brains is probably even more important. And symphony musicians represent that creative class that we need in San Antonio to create a fabric that also attracts businesses to come to San Antonio. Because you can't attract the business to relocate to San Antonio if you don't have a creative class that creates that environment and makes the city livable and attractive.
And people often lose sight of the fact that the musicians of the San Antonio Symphony are really the top of the heap, and they're teaching musicians below them, their students, who then eventually become the teachers in the classrooms for students whose parents are patrons of the symphony or are members of the community, and they don't realize this trickle down, you might say, that without it, the entire infrastructure of music education in the city becomes something other than what it is today, which is at the very top.
It will disappear. I mean, everything depends on it. We are the largest music educator in Berg County, by no question. We're the largest tenant of the of the Tobin Center, with over 50% of their weeks, if you really count it. We are the largest employer in the performing arts by a long shot. And we are the organization with the biggest economic impact, the nonprofit with the biggest economic impact in downtown as a nonprofit and a performing arts organization. All these are factors you have to consider. This is not about I like classical music or I don't like classical music. The education aspect, of course, we reach the 40,000 kids through our YPCs. On top of that,
there's young people's concerts.
Young people's concert. On top of it, of course, we have open dress rehearsals where students come and high school students and other students come and witness our work, and we have Q&A. So that reaches another couple thousand students every year during our classics. But what you mentioned before is if on an average, every single musician of the San Antonio Symphony teaches 10 students a week, and some of them actually teach 20. On 25. I have to ask, Mary Ellen Goree is like probably the champion of having taught.
What's her instrument?
Violin, having taught hundreds of violinists in the city. Then you would reach 720 kids every single year. And we are talking individual teaching, which is a completely different ballgame from normal, group teaching, because it really also, remember, in this one-on-one situation, you're not learning an instrument alone. You're learning discipline, you're learning focus, you're learning commitment, dedication. And then there's one other thing. I think we have to look at our society, the responsibility we have in creating a society that has values. Everybody's talking about values. We try to find them in religion, but that is always diversive because people have different beliefs, right? So religion is giving values and morale, but we can find these values also within ourselves in our daily life. Musicians, there are more and more, I see that in our audition process, there are more and more musicians coming to us to audition. The level is getting higher and higher. You go to the Yosa concerts today, compared it with 10 years ago, I think everybody can agree the level is much higher. When I did Dvorak 8 with them, it was really a fantastic.
This is the
standard.
youth orchestra of San Antonio.
Yeah, Yosa is
And
the
there's
youth
a number of
orchestra.
orchestras.
San Antonio, and the Philharmonic is the top notch of it. And the number of string students had grown amazingly. In the demographics, it represents now far more the demographics of San Antonio, which I think is wonderful to see. So what I'm saying is, young students take the risk of becoming musicians and make that their profession. Your daughter is a great example of that. With her education background, she could be a lawyer, you know, and make a lot of money. She's smart enough to be a great lawyer and to make, you know, like 10 times the money she's making at the San Antonio Symphony. I think there's no doubt about it. But she chose to become a musician. Why? Maybe you can answer that to me.
I told her, do not become a musician unless you have to be a musician.
And it's a vocation, yeah.
I mean, if you have it in your bones, and you know it if you have it in your bones, that you must perform, that's what you want to do, then that's what you do.
But it is not like a lifestyle choice. I think it is also a dedication to our audience, and it's a great demonstration of love and dedication to humanity. Musicians are profoundly idealistic people, and great examples of human beings who sacrifice a large portion of their life. Let's not forget they start this process when they are kids at the age of 6, and they had to replace a lot of play dates with practicing, and a lot of birthday parties have been missed because they practiced. And this idealistic approach is so important as a symbol for our community and for our society. So therefore, they are actually role models. And that's, I think, where it comes to the point where actually this can't be measured, how important that is. And when the students come to our rehearsals and they witness this dedication and devotion and discipline, it changes their lives. And not to speak of the fact that, of course, the biggest problem we are facing with the younger generations is the lack of attention and the shorter and shorter attention spans that everybody has because of the electronic media. You know, music is a great way of driving you away from that and refocus and rewire your brains. It is a very important, I think, mission we have, and it will save a lot of people and a lot of youngsters who are growing up right now into rewire the brains and refocus and take time away from electronic media, you know. And music is a great way of doing it.
One last thing I just wanted to bring up to you. I've noticed, for instance, we lost Ken David Mazur, and he went to San Diego initially out of San Antonio. And that symphony orchestra, along with Kansas City and Cincinnati, and a few others as well, were profoundly changed because leading wealthy families saw the importance of exactly what you're saying right now, the importance of that in their youth and the importance of that to their city, that they gave substantial monies to endow their symphonies. And those 3 cities, and there are others, do not have this perennial need for always trying to close the gap between closing a season in the red and closing a season in the black.
Yeah.
We need to have people not point at one another,
no,
but step forward and do the right thing. Short of that, we will always be having discussions like this.
Oh, yeah. And it would also, there's no question, we need an endowment, an arts fund, a trust.
I'm talking $50 to $100 million.
Well, it's very simple math. I think an endowment will always take money away from your contribution because people who give to an endowment then don't want to be asked anymore, which is fine. But
that $55 million endowed the Tobin,
Yeah.
And we need to mirror that
We need to mirror that. I mean,
in the San Antonio Symphony.
if you look at budget sizes, and that's the other thing, I think people throwing out random numbers of a budget size that have no connection to reality. The lower your budget is, and I've been through all these budgets. You know, when I arrived, it was a $5 million budget with a $500,000 shortfall, which is 10%. No, it's not 10%. But
No, that's 10%. 500,000.
Yeah,
5 million.
Yeah, 10%, exactly. Sorry, yeah, it's 10%, and we went up to a $7 million budget and finished in the black. You know, there is no, the problem is the lower your budget is, the cost factor weighs in more. The relation between cost and revenue is off. So you need a larger budget is more of a guarantee for a balanced budget than a lower budget.
We also have 72 musicians. That's pretty much the bottom line of a major symphony orchestra, to staff and have the number of stands in a symphony in order to then, if you needed to grow the symphony, you could easily grow to add more brass or whatnot for a large Mahler or Beethoven symphony.
We don't look. 72 musicians is the bottom line to do anything in the repertoire we are doing. For most of our repertoire, it's the total bottom line. For all the pops, it's the total bottom line, and we still have to hire extras. Our big problem here in San Antonio, and people don't understand, we are not living in New York. We are not living in a big metro area with a million musicians on the street walking around looking for a job. We have even trouble to replace musicians that are sick, because we don't draw from a big source of local musicians on the level to perform with us. That's just a fact. So we need to attract people to live, to relocate, and come to San Antonio and build this arts community. 72 is the lowest number, and we still have to hire extras a lot of the time because the repertoire requires it. So we need to stabilize that and grow from there. There is no question about it. If we want to keep a flexible and rich repertoire and also you know, have the impact in the community that we need to have.
Well, Maestro, thanks for your candid thoughts. We're going to make this happen.
No, I see this. I see a turning point. I really see a turning point.
We almost need to hit the wall for everybody to go, oh, I didn't know there was a problem. Yes, there is a problem, and the problems are dollars and understanding how we fix it.
I'm sure we will. And the San Diego model is a great one because they have been. I mean, the San Diego is a wealthy city. San Diego is not a poor city, but you know, people have a lot.
But the thing is, they're no larger than this city.
Yeah.
And so we're not looking at, for instance, Kansas City, the Kaufman family there. These venues that they have and the orchestra levels that they present, they're just first class. They're very proud of what they're doing there, as we are here.
And Kansas City that symphony was in deep trouble.
Deep trouble.
Deep trouble for all reasons, in deep trouble, and came out of that just because.
We've witnessed just recently, the last few years, the Minnesota Symphony, the Minnesota Orchestra going through it. It has climbed out of its morass as well.
Yep.
Community has come and made a major support to its beloved symphony.
But what I want to point out, though, too, is that the grassroots funding of a symphony is the most essential of our funding. For example, you know, you have the corporation that gives you $250,000. When they drop out, that's a huge problem, and you've been sitting on the board when that happened.
Yes.
And that is something, it happens overnight, and it's very hard to replace.
Also, when a major donor who's given a lot of money and then comes to the end of their life and their progeny decide that they don't want to do what their mom or dad was doing, that affects us.
But 1,000 people who give $200 a year, that doesn't fluctuate that much.
No.
You know, and we need this. You know, everybody can do his share. I mean, everybody can be a part of that community.
But even so, and I agree with you, if we sell every ticket in the Tobin, it still only covers 30-40% of our costs of
and
the
that
symphony.
Is a lot in comparison to all big European arts institutions where where it covers only 15% because the ticket prices are so much lower.
Ah.
I think our ticket pricing is, quite frankly, too high for the demographics of San Antonio. That is, for me, a big problem. And one other reason to have an endowment that really covers a portion of our budget is to keep ticket pricing where it should be and reflecting the demographics of San Antonio. I mean, we have ticket pricing that is very similar to the ticket pricing of Seattle. But the income level of Seattle downtown, because of Amazon and all of this, is a completely different one. So please keep in mind, our ticket pricing needs to drastically change in order to, to be accessible.
Well, thank you for your time, Maestro.
Thank you.
We've got a ladder we're going to climb, and I don't mind climbing it as long as I'm looking around and you're right there with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maestro.